I'm Andrea Lee Matthies, writer, photographer, and clairvoyant medium, and this is the Bold, Brave Woman Project. This podcast is a living, breathing unfolding of what it really means to step into our becoming. Born from the ashes of a failed YouTube channel, this weekly podcast brings you real, unfiltered moments of failure, of bravery, and of deep intuitive knowing so that you too can step into who you're becoming with even more trust and bravery. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Bold, Brave Woman Project. This episode is really special because this is actually going to be the last episode in the current Bold, Brave Woman Project branding. And this is really exciting because I have been contemplating a lot over the last couple of weeks around what it is that I really want to do with this podcast, and particularly as I move into this new artist era, what it is that I want to do to bring all of these beautiful pieces together. And so I made a really big decision in the last couple of days that I'm shifting the branding from the Bold Brave Woman Project to a brand new energy, a brand new entity as well, called the House of Andrea. And this feels really good. Oh, by the way, it's really windy where I am at the moment, so if you start to hear the beautiful sound of the trees in the background, pay no mind. I think the universe and the environment at the moment is cheering on and, bringing these beautiful gusts of wind in support of this big change. But the House of Andrea actually came to me. It was in the middle of the night. I had a series of conversations with some mentors that I work with around this work and this new era and phase that I'm stepping into around the embodied energy of the artist and what that means for me. And I was starting to think about energetic containers. And sometimes when we are in old identities or we've been through certain experiences and we set these energetic containers of ourselves, of our lives, when we want to step into something new, that old container, brand, identity, whatever it is that we have built, sometimes isn't big enough. It's not stretchy enough to hold the new energy that we are stepping into. And I was starting to feel that happen with the original branding of the Bold Brave Woman Project. Now, don't get me wrong, this brand and this podcast started from an absolute beautiful place. It was the sourcing of braveness, of boldness, to not give up, to make something of a failure, to realize and step into the energy of being bold and being brave, starting a podcast, talking about some deep breakthroughs and incidences that were happening in my life, to keep walking forward and share those with the world, to honestly just connect with you on a deeper level, to let you know you're not alone. If you're going through any of this deep stuff, you are not alone. And I see you. I see you in your bravery. I see you in the depth of despair. And I honor you too, because this life, this being human is such a tricky one at times. It's so complicated, it's so heavy, but it is also so powerful and so magical at times. And so when the Bold Brave Woman Project container was set, it was perfect. It was what I needed at the time to step into my bravery. But as I've gone through this rapid transformation over the last couple of months, so many more pieces of me are starting to surface. So many more depths of desires, of interests, of things that I really want to step into and start expressing have started to reveal themselves. And I realized the container that I set when I was in that really broken, beaten down space of the failed YouTube channel and sourcing that power that I had at the time, that's no longer big enough to hold the energy and to create this container of stretch that I know I need to step into now that I'm moving into this new era of photographer, of channeler, of energy worker, of all of the things that I am moving into at the moment. The Bold Brave Woman Project container, I've outgrown that and it needs to shift. And so I connected with a couple of mentors last week to really help me unpack what it is that is being created here. And after I had those sessions, I fell asleep and was woken up in the middle of the night, being shown that this new container that I need to create has to be something that is very, very stretchy, is a higher level of frequency, but is big enough for me to be able to expand into. Because sometimes when we set containers for ourselves, we set containers based on where we're at and what feels comfortable. I mean, we set containers of safety, essentially, so that we have these beautiful boundaries of having spaces to move into, to flow into, to move around, to step into our power, but within a limit that feels comfortable. And I'm realizing with this next era of really becoming an artist who can infuse source codes into their art, who can translate energy and ether and messages from source into either photography sessions, into art pieces or channeled messages, it's going to require a much higher frequency and a much bigger space. Because where I am right now is stepping into this is like the beginning. It's like that first step that we take onto the journey of where we're going. But we need to have that space to grow, even if it feels scary, even if it feels really, really uncomfortable. It is so much more in alignment with who we're becoming and in service of ourselves to create containers that stretch us, that almost not terrify, because that tips into a different frequency and a different energy, but fills us with this sense of, I need to expand. I need to expand even if I don't know how to. This container that I'm creating for myself out of my own free will, out of my love, out of my intention, this space has me. It's solid. It's my container that I create, but it is also going to ask me to rise. And so in the middle of the night, my angelic team woke me up with this idea. It was about 2 a.m. This tap on the shoulder, energetic tap on the shoulder that was like, the container is the house of Andrea. Now it's interesting because over the last few months, I've had this house of type energy and these words flow to me in different formats when I'm thinking about different offers or partnerships or collaborations or things that I have been creating around this new artist identity. And House of has come up a lot, but it's also felt super stretchy and super almost out of reach. It's like, no, that's like the house of Chanel or the house of luxury or the house of these big, beautiful, fancy elite level brands. Like, who am I to step into a container or a brand or a name that is, synonymous with some of these other elite level, high level brands? Like, who am I to do that? And so there has been a lot of hinting from the universe that this was a container that I needed to set, but also, but I couldn't do that. Like, who am I to do that? And it's taken a lot of time, really, to cultivate through that, to sit with that, to allow that to reveal what it is that needs to shift, because we are all these incredible beings in these amazing, beautiful bodies that are having this human experience. Yet we let our minds and our circumstances and expectations limit and forget that incredible potential and power that exists within us. And soon we start telling ourselves, no, I'm not for that. I can't stretch that far. That is not for me. These types of narratives start to root and take hold in our minds, and you say them to yourself, or you think them to yourself, or even just energetically allow them to play in our energy. And before we know it, it's real. It's a belief. It is an anchor. It is something that we move through our lives existing by. And that's crazy, because being of source and from source and having all of this incredible, powerful energy exist within us, we should be having and creating and trusting and ultimately giving ourselves permission to create the containers that hold all of this magic. Because as soon as we create the container, the magic and the essence, it has somewhere to go. Finally, it's supported within a container, within a space that doesn't just exist within us, but it can start to move. And in whatever way that is for us, whether that's in our career, whether that's in our mothering, in our family, in our voices, the way that we want to express or share our mission with the world, this container all of a sudden creates space for that to happen. And the more we start to fluidly move and express within that space, the more we start to build trust and a reminder of what we're capable of. And then the more trust that we have, the more energy we can pour out, and it becomes this beautiful cycle of trust and outpouring within this container that has space enough for us to expand. And of course, when we get to the edges of that expansion, we can just make the container bigger. And this is the thing that I'm realizing now, is that we create containers for ourselves at each chapter that we are in our lives, based on where we're at, based on what we want to achieve. But we can't stay in those containers. You know, I sometimes look back at different periods of my life, and every now and then you have that fleeting thought of, I wish I was back there. Or I wish I was still in that moment, in that time with those people. But we look at who you are now and the incredible wealth of experience, the things that you have witnessed, that you have moved through. There's no way those older containers, those nostalgic back in the past containers could hold all that you are now. It's absolutely not possible. And so we might look back on with that nostalgia, with that energy of, I wish I was still back there. But it's not feasible, and it can sometimes be really difficult to let that go, particularly if the time of our life or the memories attached to it, the achievements, the people, the experiences, if they were so love-filled, or if they were an essential piece of our identity that allowed us to escape from the heaviness of how we were feeling, or the heaviness of what we were going through at the time, we create these energetic anchors back to that container that felt safe, that felt happy, particularly if we're moving through a phase in our life now where a lot of that stuff is ready to shift and it's coming up. It's moving through us. Life feels heavy, feels dense. You feel sad all the time, or you're stepping into a new path and it feels different, awkward, so scary because it's different. It's so much easier to look back at that past version of ourselves and that past container and feel like it was better back then. I wish I was back there in that energy because that was the moment where I felt happy. And when I've looked at this, because I've had these nostalgic moments of looking back, you know, in beautiful romances when I was younger, or times where I felt free and in my body, I look back at those moments and it's like, why am I so unhappy now? And it's because I'm trying to, in this expanded version of myself, contort myself and fit myself back in that container, which was perfect at the time and made me feel that way, those beautiful feelings. But I can't actually contort back into that container. What I need to do is create the container with self-permission and awareness that fits me now, that allows me to pour myself into and expand so that those feelings of happiness, those feelings of trust, of loving my body, of loving being alive and present, they can be now feelings. They can be things that I experience as I am now without trying to attach myself to the past. And so many of my friends and I talk about this regularly, because when life feels difficult in the moment now, it's so much easier to be like, oh, it was so much easier when we were 16, or it was so much easier when we were 20, it was so much easier when we were 30. Like, we're always going back to those key moments and wishing we were back there. And it always seems to come up when you're around people who were present in those moments in the past, who were those anchors and integral to those memories. It's so easy to get together and be like, oh, do you remember when it was easier? Do you remember when we did this? And we want to compare it to where we are now and how we feel now. It's like, oh, I've done this, this, and this, and it doesn't feel this way. Or I've tried this, or I'm tied to this, or I made this decision, or I can't believe this is my life. And you compare it back. Oh gosh, wasn't it easier when we took that road trip? Wasn't it easier when we were doing that or living that way? It's like, yes, it was easier, but for that container, for where we are and the experiences that we had. It's just that we're in an outdated container now and we need to expand it. And so this container, this new concept of House of Andrea that woke me up in the middle of the night a couple of nights ago, all of a sudden I was like, yes. Being brave enough to set a container that's so big that allows me to expand is exactly what I need right now. I need to stop trying to fit myself into everything that I have been and allow myself to dream bigger and ride it with the fear. Because when I came up with this name, House of Andrea, I was like, well, who am I to name something after me? Who am I to, what kind of audacity is it to go House of Andrea? Like, it felt really challenging at first, because the ego of, not even the ego, but the fear of it being ego-led started to meander and bang around in my mind. And I was like, ooh, are people going to hear that and think, oh God, does she think that she's better than us? Does she think this? Does she think that? And this fear of people perceiving this shift as an ego-based decision was really loud. And I had to sit with that. And you might feel this in your life too, when you have this big idea and you want to name it something, or you want to pursue something. But then this voice of like, oh, but people are going to think you're super arrogant or way beyond where you're at or too big for your boots. That can get really noisy. And if we say it to ourselves enough, it's like beliefs are thoughts that we said over and over and over and have decided are real. And we start to believe that. But the bravery is the key to this. The trust and the bravery is the key to this, to be like, okay, House of Andrea, why is this coming through? Okay, guides, angels, team, source, why are you giving this to me as this new container that I need to hold? And I sat with it and I'm like, even although it's called House of and my name, Andrea, this is not actually about me creating a house where everybody comes in and we all follow my rules. It's not like that. It's like, if I give myself permission to claim something like House of Andrea, it's like I am giving myself permission to step into my power, to lead with my soul, essentially, to lead with my soul, to lead with my energy. And if I can do it, then everyone can do it. It's like I see everyone having their own house of. And it's like this inner sourcing of power, of coming back to leading from our energy, from our soul gifts, from the reason that we're here, and saying that we're enough out loud, claiming that we're enough out loud. It's like by creating this container of House of Andrea, it not only allows me to finally give myself permission to own all that I am and all that I am creating in this beautiful energetic state, but by doing that, it's almost like I'm saying to the world as well, it's like, give yourself permission to do the same. Like, you deserve to have your own house of, or, whatever it is in terms of the terminology that you're thinking of doing or that has been coming to you. You've been getting these little signs, these symbols to do something different, to take a different path or own something in your own way. It's like, yes, let's do it. This is a time. Like, this is 2025. We, for such a long time, have been putting woo and spirituality and healing and all of these things in a separate bucket to the real world. And if you do go and do some of this work, it's like either within safe communities or, only talked about with people that are going to be accepting of it. And then we switch back into the normal life when we're around the normal life, people or situations and environments. It's like, this is 2025. These two separate buckets don't need to exist anymore. We can say we are source, field, and fueled beings who are deeply connected to ourselves, deeply connected to our spirituality, who also do this normal stuff, who also just normalize the conversation and the sensation of being alive and connected to our soul, to our energy, to everything that we're here to do. So if we're that connected and it's 2025 and it's modern and it's cool to talk about this stuff, then let's start using that language to create containers that can hold all of that for us and normalize it. Because part of my work that I'm seeing into this next chapter is the words that keep coming through to me are it's woo, but 2025. It's making this type of conversation so normal that we all just talk about it over coffee, in the workplace, at home, all the time. There is no denying now where we come from and what we're made of and what we're here to do, and that we are moving through lifetimes and we're going to be doing this over and over and over again. We have all this wealth of wisdom from where we've been in different lifetimes to where we are now, the beautiful ancestral lines that are connected to us, to the lifetimes that we're going to live beyond this. But really coming home to who we are right now in this lifetime. In this lifetime, I am Andrea Matthies. And that comes with a whole wealth of things and experiences. And it's time for me to just own that. The same that it is time for you to own yours, to own your name, to own who you are, to set the containers that are big enough to hold that, plus what's coming, all of the things that you're about to expand into. Setting the container big enough to hold that and being yeah, it's woo, but it's 2025. There is no separation. And it's really interesting, the power of claiming your name. And I really understand this because I have had a tumultuous journey with my name. When I was born, I was named Andrea Lee Matthies by my parents. But as we do when we're children, we get given nicknames. And my nickname quickly became Andy, or Andy Pandy, or Ange, different variations of this. And it's funny because I think this happens to a lot of us. We get our pet name or our nickname, and we get that most of the time, except for when we're in trouble. And then we either get the full first name or the full name. And I knew if my mum yelled, Andrea Matthies or Andrea, I was like, uh-oh, I've either been busted or something's coming. I've done something wrong. And so we can attribute that energy to our name. And so by the time I hit high school, I was like, I am not going by the name Andrea. I'm going to go by Andy, because there was so much love attached to that nickname as well. It had a beautiful energy around it. So I went by the name Andy. I changed, my name with my friends at school. It got them to start calling me Andy, the teachers, everyone. And I went through high school mostly being known as Andy. And then when I went out into the work environment, when I graduated year 12, I went to university and then started working. I felt like I needed to go with my legal name. So I started to put Andrea on, employment forms or work badges and things like that. But as people got to know me, they would call me Andy. So I went through this kind of period of early career as being known as Andrea. And fast forward, 20 years or so, don't hold me to the dates because I haven't worked them out specifically, but fast forward a fair chunk of time and I met this particular man and started dating him. And on our very, very first date, he said to me, Andy is a boy's name. I refuse to call you that. I'm only going to call you Andrea. Because he was of a European background. He had an accent. So I'm only going to call you Andrea. Like, none of this Andy business. And I remember sitting there, and it was in a particular time where my self-esteem and my self-worth, everything was non-existent. And so, of course, this man was showing me attention and interest, and I was attracted to him. And so if he's like, well, he's only going to call me Andrea, and that sounds exotic, then yeah, I'm going to become Andrea. And so in that moment of allowing someone to, I guess, project and change my identity in that moment, I was like, okay, Andy is dead. I am now Andrea. And so I went about, becoming this version of Andrea over this course of this relationship, which lasted almost a decade. And it was really interesting that sometimes when we get into situations where we give our power away, we give our voice away, and we allow others to imprint an identity on us, we slice these fragments of ourself away. And so I just started to become the shell of a woman, the shell of myself. And in amongst knowing that I was becoming a shell, I was becoming very resentful of this relationship because I could see what was happening, but I was also allowing it. I was making decisions to stay. I was making allowances for someone to call the shots around where I worked, what we did with my money, which became our money, lots of different things that sort of stripped away willingly. These were micro decisions that I made, and so there's no blame here other than just seeing this as an experience that I went through. But I realized this relationship had created a situation where I was no longer myself and I was no longer happy. And so I had to ultimately, at the end of that, make the decision to walk away so that I could start walking myself back to who I was. But what had happened in the process of this is because I had been told that my name was Andrea and that this was the identity that I was to assume, when I left that relationship, I started to hate the name Andrea because it had been forced back on me. And so pretty much within 24 hours of finally leaving that relationship, I completely changed my name back to Andy. So overnight, everything, LinkedIn, Instagram, people I knew, I'm like, please don't call me Andrea, call me Andy. Because what it felt like at the time was me taking my power back, making a decision to go back to the woman that I thought I was before entering this relationship, who, at least had ownership of the name that she preferred. And so I went back to Andy. And that was fine. But what was really interesting is that it took me some time to realize that going back to Andy was a massive overcorrection that maybe didn't serve me, because coming home to yourself and owning all that you are, there's such power in that. There was power in starting to strip away, why did I need to call myself Andy in the first place? It was because I was afraid of using the name Andrea because I thought I was in trouble just from that association from when I was a kid. And I really, even although someone said to me, I'm only going to call you this, which created some tension towards the name Andrea, it's like, well, actually, if I allow myself to forgive myself for giving my power away in that relationship and just let that be an experience and a journey that I went through and neutralize it, if I'm able to go back and just like neutralize the stuff from my childhood where, you know, if I got my full name, it meant that I was in trouble, just neutralize that. Because of course your parents are going to call you by your name if they need your attention and there's something important to speak about. Like, you know, it's crazy how we internalize these fears or these associations with words based on these experiences. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go back and neutralize that. And I'm moving into a phase of my life where I want to take ownership for this beautiful soul that exists in this body. And I was gifted this name, Andrea Lee Matthies. There's power in owning that. There's power in making the decision to come back to my roots and to really just see my soul and my energy and my love for what it is, and allowing myself to reassemble inside this beautiful name and just own that. And so over the last couple of months, since this podcast started, I was very much in the Andy when this podcast started, but over the course of the last months, however long we've been running now, I'm like slowly edging back to, no, I'm ready to come home to myself. And part of that process is deciding within me to step into the full energy of where I started, how I was gifted this name and how I came into the world. That first breath that I took that breath as an Andrea. And there's power in deciding to clear and neutralize all of the associations, all of the stuff associated with that, and step back in. And so that's where I'm at. I've, over the last couple of months, as I said, started using Andrea. And then over the last 4 to 6 weeks, I only use Andrea now. I've removed Andy off my socials. And of course, friends and family, you can still call me Andy. It's not a big deal. But from a energy, a leadership, stepping into this next chapter, this next container, Andrea is the name that I want to use. And so when I woke up in the middle of the night and it was like, now is the time to own this container and to step into the power of the house of Andrea for me, so that I can expand, so that I can pour out into the world all this incredible wisdom, this connection to source that's being amplified minute by minute. The deeper that I move into this, and the deeper that I trust myself to stretch and expand into these new roles, these new containers that I'm building, the more I am actually going to be coming home to myself. And House of Andrea is it. And so from next week, all of the episodes that are going to be released on this podcast are going to be under the brand new branding of House of Andrea. I'm going to be working on all of the graphics and everything that will wrap around that over the course of the week. So keep an eye out for that when it drops. There'll be a new intro because I will be slightly repositioning these kinds of conversations as well to involve more of this but 2025. We're going to have deeper conversations about connecting you back to your soul. And that includes your gifts, that includes your self-trust, that includes your knowing, your wisdom, the connections that you have to everything around you, really deeply connecting you back to that so that you can become your own house of owning your name, whatever that is for you in this next chapter. That's what these conversations are going to be about. And there's no more fear now. I'm done with being afraid of talking about some of these topics and really helping you awaken that for yourself. So there's going to be a lot more of that, because the more of us that turn our light on, the more of us that step into the power that is our birthright, that exists within us. It's not outside of us, it exists within us. And the more of us that step into that light and into that energy and turn it on, the more that we're going to activate others. And the more that we can activate others and send up these incredible, powerful signals and do things differently and own things differently and more in a more grounded way, that's how we're going to change things. And it starts with normalizing these kinds of conversations. And it starts with coming back to yourself in whatever way that takes place. And so I'm really excited to go on this next chapter, this next part of the journey under the House of Andrea. I don't even entirely know exactly what's going to be involved in this. All I know is that what's coming through me at the moment are these beautifully source-coded pieces of artwork that I'm sharing on Instagram every day. And so my new handle on Instagram, which has now been updated, is House of Andrea. So I really encourage you to jump on there and follow that, because these new source-coded pieces of art are going to be dropping every day to really start helping you with this self-permission to get deeper in connection with your soul and who you are. I'm offering the readings as well to support you in this next phase. So if you're feeling cold, reach out, book a one-on-one session with me, and we'll connect you back to your soul, to your source, so that you can start really stepping into this next chapter that you're moving into. And then these deep, immersive photography experiences, which are healing. They're like a combination of healing, tapping in, cracking open, and then capturing that so that you can not only be seen, but see yourself deeply in this amazing next chapter that you're stepping into. These sessions are going to start becoming available. So if you're interested in getting on the wait list of those, send me a DM. And I feel like this new House of Andrea container is going to have so much more in it. But right now I'm only being shown each single piece one step at a time. And I'm just allowing myself to stretch and trust that this is the path. This is the path. This is the thing that I'm meant to be doing, because I'm done with trying to figure it out with only my brain, and I'm done with following someone else's path, and I'm also done with abandoning myself. And I hope that you are too. I hope that each time we have these conversations, there's just this little extra piece of yourself that starts to come home. It starts to anchor back in. It starts to help you remember who you are and your soul and your energy, so that you too can walk the path that you are here to walk and set that bigger container that is waiting to hold you in this next chapter of your life. So signing off with the last episode of the Bold Brave Woman Project, transitioning now into the House of Andrea. I love you, and I will see you in the next episode. As always, thank you for being here. If this episode stirred something for you and you want to book a channeled reading, jump on the link in the show notes. There's only a few channeled reading sessions available each week. And of course, you can reach out to me anytime or follow all of my art and photography on Instagram. If you're not in there yet and you want to get into the private Telegram space where all of these audios drop every day, as well as all the art, the conversation, and the behind the scenes, go to www.andrealeemathies.com/private podcast. You can also follow me on Instagram at Andrea Lee Matthies, and you can find more about me and all of my work at andrealeemathies.com. I'll see you in the next transmission.